basically, for the 5 minutes whilst you weren't online,
Mm,
we was sort of like getting into the flat Earth thing, and
mm,
Patrick, you see, this is the curious thing. When we're coming together, we've got these minds that are of a similar development, similar experience, and assessment of the world, and we're concluding the same thing, that it
mm.
doesn't make freaking sense. It's a paradox, and so I was saying that when you look at the world and you look at the stars and you look at the sun and the moon and the planets and all this stuff, they seem to be circular, they seem to be sphere shaped, and
Mm,
so we've got every right to assume that the earth is spherical, and it all makes sense with all the geometry that they tell us about the universe. It all makes sense being round particles, and yet when you do the measurements and lots of other tests to discern if the Earth is in actual fact round, it
mm,
comes up that it's flat. And the one that you can't actually get out of is that the people have been doing tests like standing on a canal very, very flat, very, very long, 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 long. And so
mm,
one stands in a boat at one end with a theodolite or a telescope, and the other one goes there and is standing there with like a theodolite chain boys a meter stick,
mm,
and they can see that he's gone. He's measured how far he's gone. He's gone 3 miles up this canal.
mm,
But the math says that the Earth's curvature goes down 8 inches every mile. And
mm.
so, therefore, then you would assume, well, you do the math, and then you wouldn't be able to see, say, like 18 inches of his feet, but he could.
Yeah, I saw videos on YouTube too with very cameras with very extreme zoom when they still could. The boat was away on the horizon, but you could still zoom and you still see the boat. But other people that say, of course, that's a reflection of the atmosphere, but I don't know if the Earth is flat or not. I think it's, to be honest, it's more of a distraction. I like to talk about it and philosophize about it, but it's more of a distraction for me. But still, for my own experience, I just took a flight to Bulgaria once, and to be honest, as I looked out of the window, everything was flat. I never saw any curvature of the Earth. So I don't know. And the funny thing is, even in the community, the 2 weeks ago in the greenhouse, I'm most of the time in the garden team. And there's one guy who was totally, yeah, the Earth is flat, the Earth is flat. And I say, yeah, maybe, I don't know, but I think it's more spherical, but I don't know. And Rohir, the other guy, a Dutch guy, was like, no, I think you know that theory too. He believes the Earth is like a donut shape. I think you
Right.
heard about that
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
And he talked, as I talked about him a lot, he had a lot of funny examples to where even I thought, like, yeah, that makes, in a way, it makes a little bit sense how he explained it, but still. There's so many theories about that, like the Earth is spherical, the Earth is flat, the Earth is like a donut shape. It's, I don't know, it's, for me, to be honest, it's more like a distraction to talk about these things, but because does it really matter? Is it a donut shape, is it flat, or is it a sphere? I don't know. It's not really matters to me at all, to me,
Well,
really. I like to philosophize and talk about these things, not,
yeah, because
but
it's beautiful philosophy. But the way I look at it, and I can emancipate myself from any of the bewilderment, any of the anger, any of the doubt, any of the human emotions, which these flat earthers, they get really, really angry
yeah,
because it means that, God's created this world and they're trying to lie to us about God. And then it's a case of, oh, goodness me. So you want the world to be flat and you want to believe in a God. Well, I mean, that's a belief system. So just if you ever do prove that the world is flat, then you've got to prove that there's a God, because just because the world's flat and it says it's the 4 corners in the earth, that ain't no proof that there's a God which created it. So you know better off, people. So don't waste your time. unless you enjoy it. But
Yeah.
what I do is Chris, I eclectically pick many other things that we look at, and I say to myself, okay, then look, we can look at the flat Earth and we can say, is it flat or is it round?
Mm.
I say it's both. How
Yeah.
many people have you heard say that it is both? Because you sound
Just you and one other guy on YouTube says that.
really okay.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to know why he thought it is, but it seems like it must be we're coming from the same position. You see, everything else in this universe, Chris, is a paradox.
Mm.
If you look at yourself, we absolutely would swear blind. Most people in the street would swear blind that we exist. We're a human being. Look, this is solid, this, that, and the other. And then if you take them by the hand and you lead them in front of a computer and you show them videos of the best physicists, quantum physicists on the planet, and you get them to listen to what these physicists say, the world does not exist. There's no corporality. There is no tangible world. There's no out there. There's nothing. It's all dream. It's all imagination. If you confronted them with that, then I wonder how they would feel. Would they be in absolute denial about it? And then if you see, if you look at this, Chris, if you look at the biggest brains on the planet telling us that we don't exist, and you're afraid of that, then of course you take objection to it. But if you're not afraid of it, because you see the way I look at everything like this, if a meteorite hits the Earth and this, that, and the other, the party's over for everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's why I really.
What's the point in feeling emotional about it? Because everybody is in the same boat.
Yeah, that's why I would totally agree with you. And Ra was the other guy who said it's both at the same time, because everything is so paradoxical in this universe. Everything contradicts itself in a way. It's like with quantum physics and normal physics. One says it exists, it's physical, and the other say it doesn't exist. And it's so many religions too, and mysticism, that it's both. It is and it isn't at the same time. It's just. It always, for me, it always boils down to the human perception. We don't want to perceive it that way. We always say, or want to see it black and white. We want to see it's this and not that. But when you say it's both, they always like, no, it can't be both. But why not? Why can't it be both? Why can't it be flat and spherical at the same time? Because you can't, in my opinion, you can't agree with one. You only agree with one or the other because you want to agree with one or the other. You can't. You want to have this. How you can say it? Not dichotomy, but you want to prove someone wrong in a way, but nobody can prove it. That's the thing. It's hard to understand for people that it's both at the same time.
That's right.
And so I can say
we're just talking about the flat Earth, Patrick, and we're just talking about. And I said, well, my philosophy on the flat Earth, because the evidence is so compelling for it, and the evidence is so compelling against it, and so. What we know about this world is that the world is a complete paradox in every single facet that you look. So why can't it be both? It has to be both. And so therefore then, if you accept that the world is round and it is flat, and if somebody comes up with a like a donut, like Chris was saying, there's donut hypothesis, the world's a donut, or the world's bouncing on the back of a turtle, it doesn't matter. It can be everything because we are creators. We create everything. Consciousness creates absolutely everything. We are creators, so therefore, it is everything we want it to be, isn't it?
Yeah, until we are manipulated in projecting something that we don't really want.
Projecting something that we don't want. So give us an example of that.
Well, if you are a creator of this, are you a creator by default? Are you a creator, a conscious creator? If you look around you and you see how certain parts of the world are dreadful places where, you know, I mean, we are fortunate we live in peaceful countries with normal lives. But, you know, if you look around you, if you look at the news and all these stuff, you can clearly see that, you know, each part of this so-called globe of Earth has very different experiences, and some of these experiences are not very pleasant. So that raises the question, you know, are we masochists, and have we chosen to come and experience suffering and torture and all these horrible things? Or are we in a simulation where someone has hijacked our capacity to create in order to create a very different something that we initially wanted to create? And that's where the whole other aspect of, within the simulation, all these characters like the Illuminatis or the Freemasons, or all these kind of secret societies that all operates within symbols and numbers. And we all know that computers work with symbols and numbers. So, you know, why do they have all these sacred numbers, sacred geometry and symbols, and you know, it's all interconnected at some level. And then you start wondering, how can all these things, you know, like the same paradox with the flat and round Earth, it's both this and it's both that. When I started delving into all the different theories, I was like, okay, these guys in the flat Earth might have a good point, but if they're right, then space doesn't exist as such, and therefore aliens cannot exist. But if you start looking at, you know, the whole UFO movement, you will find some very credible stories and things that are compelling, and that I mean, the people telling it have everything that looks like what they're telling is true. And then you're wondering, like, well, but if that's true, then it excludes again the other model. And all these things seem to all, from their standpoint of view, all be completely hermetically, perfectly comprehensible, yet they exclude the other models. But if we are in a simulation, all these models can be separate modules that are interacting with one another, like in the DVD concept of the whole game being contained within that same disk, just that you're not experiencing every aspect of that disk simultaneously. You have to do it in a linear way, and that's time. That's how we experience. But if you are outside of the game and you're observing it from above, then you can basically see all the timelines simultaneously. So basically you are in a different time observing a lesser time. Or, you know, do you understand? Like the man watching the man in the mirror who watches the man in the mirror. You know, the more distance you take, the more time should be having a different value, you know.
But the way I look at it is, you see, I believe that we should use what Axor's razor, Angsor's razor. What's
Occam razors?
Occam razors, yeah. The Occam razor hypothesis, and always look for the most simple. Now, it seems to me, if you look at the and you've got all this talk about the Archons, the Nephilim, or the Anunnaki, they're splicing human beings, and they're doing all this and they're doing all that. All I would do is I'd say, hang on, okay, all well and good. You've got all this stuff going on out there. The human mind is having a field day with all different sorts of prepositions about what's going on in the world. If you want to know what the truth is, people, if you want to know what all this stuff is, whether there's any veracity to it or whatsoever, all you've got to do is to come back inside your own consciousness and look for these entities within your own mind. Look for the demons within your own mind. Look for the ghouls within your own mind. Look for the evil within your own mind. Everything is in here. And so what I think it is, I think it's what happens is with these theories, and you can see them grow and grow and grow, and this is what will reiterate and bolster my theory, that when you get a critical mass of consciousness projecting thoughts onto this world, they will then make manifest. Now then, let's have a look at the UFOs. When you go back, say like to Young's day, when Jung was writing about UFOs, he was saying that it's created by the consciousness. And so he was way ahead of his time. And I think it is, because if you look at the UFOs back in the 40s, back in the 50s, it was a cigar shape. It was a silver cigar shape. It was saucepan shape. Every single body was talking about cigar shapes and saucepan shapes. In this day and age, because somebody saw it on a movie one day, because the new stealth technology within aviation is triangular, everything's a black triangle. You know, it's a black stealthy thing now that, you know, and so what can we say? You know, does anybody see cigars anymore in the sky? They don't, do they?
It's like almost you almost described it in a way like I think about it. It's like Carl Jung said it, and Terence McKenna talked about it a little bit too. Of course, that's just a belief of me. I believe in aliens, but I can't prove it. It's just, but I think it's. I always see both sides. I always know when I have a belief, I always look at the other side, and it's like an archetype. Aliens are just like Carl Jung and Terence McKenna said are just archetypes. Like we are invented. That's why they're changing the UFO shape, because it's just we creating that with our own consciousness. These saviors from other planets in a way, and. Maybe they are just archetypes, maybe they're real, whatever, but what I really do almost can prove, or not really, I can't prove it, but it makes really sense to me that we are creating it because we are giving it energy, because we are thinking about it. It's like everything, like we are so in this informational age now because we have the internet, and that's like a blessing and a curse at the same time, because everything is like there's truth in it, but 70% or 80% what we see is like disinformation, but there's always speckles of truth in this disinformation. So the only thing we can really trust, I believe, is our intuition to really observe it and we give it energy, what we think about, whatever it is. I think that's what the New Ages mean with, oh, don't give the negative thoughts. We all have negative thoughts. It's not that...
yeah, that's right. And so you just said, we give it energy. What's the universe consist of?
Energy.
Energy. And so therefore then, doesn't it stand to reason that if we give something energy, then we are creating it?
Yeah, that's what I meant with that. Maybe they're just, maybe they're real, maybe they're just archetypes. Whatever it is, we are giving
real.
It.
Well, nothing's real because
we are giving it energy because we are thinking about it. Even just thinking about it gives it energy.
Let me just throw this one into the ballpark as well. You see, Paul and I, we've come to certain impasses with this sort of thing because you go round and round in a circle. But you see, what we can't do is that if we look at the universe and we have an inference because we've been told by our cleverest people that the universe doesn't exist in a material form, then it's only energy, then surely that we have to stay with that premise. Because if we don't stay with that premise, then what we'll do is we keep bouncing back into the non-reality. And if we're trying to look at a non-reality and solve a problem in a non-reality, then we're not going to be able to do it because it's a non-reality. So what we have to do is just say, hang on, guys, listen, it's all a hologram. It's all created out of consciousness. And so anything must be possible. Surely, end of story. What do you think? Then the flat world can be true. Then aliens can be true, and all different sorts of different dimensions can be true because it's all in consciousness. And you see, the more that we're told about these other dimensions by people that we respect, the more these thoughts are getting settled and embedded within our psyche, the more we'll start to dream them into a reality. The more we'll start to draw art, the more we'll start to create art, the more we'll start to make movies about it. What are we doing? We are bringing it into creation.
Yeah, that's what I meant with that. We are giving it energy. We are manifesting it in a way, even if it's just an archetype in our collective consciousness. We are, in a way, creating That's why I think we are creators, because we are creating with our consciousness in a way. We are creating everything we want to create in a way, but it's like, now I get in new agey terms again. I know it's like we are in the third dimension and we are going to the fourth and fifth dimension, and it's just like we are manifesting faster and faster there. So everything we could dream it into existence rapidly, or at that exact moment. But we have to learn in this, of course, that's just a theory, in this dimension to control our thoughts, because when we now would have this event where they're calling about, and we have now the solar wind hitting us, and we are from one day to another in the fifth dimension. All the people, most of the people nowadays would create chaos with their thoughts, because they would manifest it exactly. All their fears would manifest in front of them, because they're manifesting. That's maybe we are in this. We choose to be in this dimension. Again, just a theory to handle more consciousness, to be more, to control our thoughts better than we could in another dimension, in a higher dimension, whatever, create it in an instant. Here it takes time in the third dimension, like years and years to create that, and we wouldn't see that what we created just generations after us. But maybe we are just playing here this game to learn how that goes.
What about this one then, Chris? If we look at it like this, if we look at this thing, and we kind of like, we're coming up with a lot of theories these days. We're coming up with, it's a hologram, it's just pure energy. Now we've discovered that consciousness, once consciousness makes an observation, it creates a reality. And then we look at atoms, and we're discovering now that atoms don't exist. It's only an energy. And just to fox us a little bit more, when we look a little bit closer, then they actually disappear. They go out of this dimension, and then they come back into this dimension. And so it seems to me, because we are getting reasonably clever, we're getting reasonably close to cracking this nut, then what this actual nut is doing, it is creating the chaos to keep the human mind in turmoil, to stop it discovering itself. If you relate this now to the Freudian hypothesis on dreams, Freud hypothesized that the reason why we have dreams is because it's a mechanism to keep the body from waking up. So if you look at this hypothesis now, if this is a dream, then it's getting more and more chaotic, because it wants to keep us more and more engaged, because it wants to keep us asleep. Because if we wake up, if we crack the nut, the game is over.
There's no observer then anymore. The game would be over, yeah.
And so then we wouldn't be here. And so it seems preposterous, but the world is preposterous, isn't it? And we can't find right and wrong. We don't know what true is, and we don't know what false is, because they all seem to play an equally valid part in whatever's going on. And when you look now at the state of our politics, the misinformation, the disinformation, it seems to me that the human consciousness has been confused, whether it's been confused by another entity, by the people at the top of the pyramid, or whether our consciousness is doing it to ourselves, because we are starting to learn more and more and more, and we've got more fingers in too many pies. 100 years ago, we couldn't have all these fingers in pies. You know, the very wealthy of us and educated and fortunate, we could go to a library and we could take a book out, and we could be respected and responsible agents that were going to take that book back. You know, how many people wouldn't take the book back? And so therefore, they couldn't be trusted. And so they wouldn't be privy to the information. The only information they'd be privy to was the stuff that's been spoken about down the local tavern. Now we can go onto this YouTube and we can look at all of the so-called history for forever. on this world. And it's so dichotomous, it's so contradictory, it's confusing. And so it's bringing about a chaos in our minds. And this is why people are dropping like flies to psychotropics, because they just can't think, because there's nothing to believe in anymore. And this is the thing that Nietzsche says when he stated that God is dead. Then what he was saying basically is that the belief system, because we don't have that narrow parameter of belief, an anchor to go towards, to work towards with our lives, because it's the two world hypothesis, you see, because if you want to keep this world contained and orderly, then you have to have the belief system of another world after. If you're good, if you're bad, then you go to hell. We don't have that anymore now. And so anything's game. And so what have we done? We've invented aliens and space creatures and all this sort of stuff, which is just gone wild.
Yeah, again, you can explain that with the, if you go back to the gaming on all the things that you guys just discussed. I was fortunate enough to start gaming when we still had the 2D video games, you know, the Pac-Man and the Space Invaders and all these very linear games where basically you would be a character, but the character was very limited to a script that was predefined, and you could not do anything. You know, you could not say, well, I want to make a right turn. If that was not in the script, then there was no right turn that could be made. Now, the new generation games now with the virtual reality is completely different. They have created a simulated world around you which contains all the potentials, and you, the gamer, when you enter the virtual reality, if you make a right turn, you will have a very different experience than another gamer who will at the same junction take a left turn, because now the game encompasses all the different possibilities, and the gamer, the player, is actually going to create the new environment around him. Now, if you extrapolate, which is already in existence now with today's technology, how it will look like in 100 years from now. Now, if in 100 years from now that technology, what you already see today, is pushed to the limit, what tells you that we are not actually in some similar simulation that was invented a few thousand years back? You know, you can, once you can agree on the fact that it could exist in the future, you have to take in consideration that since time is not a real concept, even by science definition, the whole computer simulation, and I don't like to use the word computer because computer is something we've invented in the simulation. So I want to see it as an organic simulation, because we tend to look at simulation like something mechanical, because that's what we experience in our reality. But the bodies that we inhabit are organic robots, you know. Everything here is of organic nature. Now, when you are in a virtual reality, you can enter a virtual reality game where tomorrow you'll be, you know, like in the movie Avatar, you'll be a blue being on a planet, and you will have very different sensations of how to move about, how to, your strengths will be different in the virtual reality, while your body is actually maybe lifting something very light in the real world. You will experience it in the virtual reality as being able to lift a car, you know, whatever. So if you can extrapolate that is a possibility, even with today's technology, it's not far-fetched to imagine that we are already in something that is of that nature.
Yeah, I can only agree with you, because even Alan Watts talked about that. Even Alan Watts said that in a video, that he talked about that with pictures, and it started with painting pictures. Anna von Kleve, where the city I live is, started with the king who fall in love with that picture, but she didn't look like that. And after that, they painted people realistically. Then they made photos. After that, they created realistical photos. Then they created the TV, and after the TV was a video game. And even he goes after the hypothesis, maybe they created in the past a simulation where everything is like, you feel everything. It's like reality. It's like more and more realistic. We want to simulate reality. Why ever humans want to do that, but we really want to do that. So in our collective consciousness, and maybe we did that 1,000 years ago, and now we are sitting in that. Even Alan Watts talks about that. That's funny. That's that you mentioned that. It's a possibility. It's a possibility.
We're running out of time again now. We've got about 5 minutes left on this one. This is the only thing. You see, they want $15 a month if you want.
I know.
Okay.
And so.
Well, it's okay, because for the viewer, I think it's also pleasant to be able to take some little bathroom breaks or coffee breaks in between, and not having to watch all the entire discussion. A lot of people don't have that much time, and I think, what is it, like 15-20 minutes now each session?
Oh, I don't know. Is it about half an hour? Is it, Chris? It seems like.
Yeah, I think so. At least 15 minutes. At least 15 minutes. I think 20 minutes. I didn't watch the clock, but at least 20. Let's see. When did you send me the email? Yeah, at least half an hour. At least.
Then you just need to label them part 1, 2, 3, etc. on the website.
And so, shall we do another 20 minutes then?
Yeah, I'm fine, because I wanted to engage now now that we've kind of agreed that it could be a simulation. So what are the players and non-player characters, and how do you recognize them?
Because it's going to get cut off any time. So I'll disengage from this, and I'll send you both a invite.
Okay.
See you in a bit. Well spotted.
So we're back.
Okay, so I'll just run over that again, because I never had record on. So what I'm saying is that it's a beautiful position for us to be in now, whereby we've all done our individual research. We are learned to a degree whereby we can think rationally, logically, and outside of our programs and outside of our bias, we're looking at it like true philosophers, what the world and our minds present to us. And it's a conundrum, because the mind will present something to us, and we think the world presents something to us. But when we get to a certain level of wisdom, we know that it's the same thing being presented to us, because they're both inside of each other. And so we somehow, in our human consciousness, we have created a division to enable us to do it. And so it's a bit like the metaphor of dreaming. If we want to dream, then we have to go to sleep. But that's only the sleeping dream. If we want to daydream, then we're wide awake. And I don't see there's any difference. We are daydreaming now. When you go into an astral projection, you're doing the same creative thing, and on and on with human consciousness. And so what I sort of, how I'm feeling it now is that I still don't consider that I know anything, because there's nothing to be known, because it's all illusory, because it has to be illusory. Either we're going to accept the illusory nature of it, or we're not. But then, because we know the world is a paradox, do we say, no, it is a paradox, and it isn't a paradox? So therefore, you have a paradox inside a paradox.
Everything contradicts itself, and in a way, it's almost, it proves to be right, because it's contradicting itself. 2015 was so funny to me because of that, because everything I researched, and I researched in a topic, and after a while I researched, of course, the other side of the medal, and everything contradicted itself. And in a way, because of that, I had to laugh so much about it, because in a way it was a proof that there has to be truth in it, because it contradicts itself. That's a paradox. I don't know, that's a strange thing about it in a way.
Yeah.
It has to contradict itself to be at least some truth in it. And what is truth again? Then we could start another topic with that, but no, that is too big of a topic, I think, right now, for half an hour.
So Patrick, what did you want to conclude with this?
Yeah, well, it's the very simple chicken and egg paradox, who came first. And if you again see the world as this linear event, which was created out of the Big Bang, and then evolved into nothingness, evolving into everything, doesn't make sense. There cannot be something that has been created by nothing. So therefore, what we experience actually doesn't have a beginning and doesn't have an end. You know, even if you look at it from the perspective of a video game where you have the disc, you may think that the beginning is the outer rim of the disc, but it would be easy to create a disc reader that would read the disc from the inside rim to the outside and just, you know, adapt the head that reads it to read it in an opposite direction, and it would just work the same way. It's just that we have decided to see it from that perspective, but there is really no beginning and no end. Like, you can never find a beginning of creation and an end to creation. It's just all in a state of always being here. Now, if you bring it back to the game analogy, we talked about the aspect of, you know, entering a virtual reality today and being able to influence the game within the existing parameters of the game. Now, if you push the envelope a bit further, you can create a new layer where the player can actually start creating the environment that he wants to see. Like you already see today in a lot of games, a player will enter the game and choose a character, and then he can completely modify the character's hair color, eye shape, nose form, and completely customize his own character that will be unique within the game. Now, when he's online and he's playing with other players, the other players will see the avatar that he's created exactly the way he's created it. So he now created an image of who he is. Now, that avatar may look like a copy of him, but if he is, what often happens is these guys tend to build up some character that looks like very strong when it's maybe a skinny nerd behind the game playing. But you know, so the whole virtual reality thing is very capable of already describing a game which you would, you know, let's put on a suit that would be linked to all the nerves of your being. Now, if we say that our consciousness is not a physical being but is projected into a physicality, then we cannot talk about this like in the Matrix movie with Neo, where he is like, you know, sitting in some kind of a container and he wakes up and he has all these tubes, you know, attached to his body. I'm not thinking it's this. I think the consciousness is actually more some kind of an intelligent energy, and as such, it is put into these bodies, and then it has the capacity of creating within the boundaries of the matrix, the simulation, the scenarios that fit his own experience. Now, of course, he's going to be meeting other gamers along the way, similar to you know, a game online today, and they might meet at some point in the game and then way part to both have different experiences within the same game. Now, it's very similar to what's happening on a, you know, daily basis, where you interact with people. Traveling a lot, and I know you've traveled as well, Aaron. I've always also noticed that when I would arrive to a new destination, everything is different than where I come from. The quality of the air, the way people interact, the whole vibration is always very different from one continent, from one country, from one city to another. It's like every a new world that you're entering has its own set of rules, and you're just interacting temporarily with this set of rules. But you know, like London, as I told you before, everything came out of a thought. Now, when you imagine the Earth in the beginning without anything on it, before London was created, it was created out of the thought of many, many men throughout history that made London what London is. So basically, London is an entity that was created by the consciousnesses of all these people. And now, if you're not from London and you come from the outside, you're actually entering a new game field. And within that game field, you're going to be adjusting to accept the game, the rules of this game. And that's what we experience as well. You know, if you go tomorrow on a holiday to Iran, you're going to be in a very different vibe. You're going to have very different interactions with these people, which are in some kind of a bubble, and you're entering that bubble and you feel very different than these people. Yet they are still human beings. You are still having a blue sky on top of your head. You still have trees in the streets, but still it's a very different feeling inside of you. It feels different. It feels heavy sometimes, or uplifting sometimes. How can you explain all these feelings when you physically can see that what you're seeing is not very different, aside from maybe the color of the skin of these guys and the way they eat, but still there is a very different vibe when you go to London, New York, Amsterdam, Paris. I've been to so many cities, and everywhere it's like it's an entity on its own. Like Paris is Paris, and there are no other places where people behave the exact same way, where the atmosphere has the same vibration, where every place is unique in its sense. And that is what we create, I think, these vibrations. But ultimately it comes down to why are we in this some kind of an enclosed system. It feels like a trap to me, from the perspective of what's happening on this planet and on which scenarios people are experimenting. It doesn't seem like a very nice attraction park for some people. We all love to go to attraction park and take a ride on the roller coaster, or go to the haunted house. But now if someone would tell you in the haunted house, 1 in the 20 clients that come inside, there is actually a real lunatic with an axe there, and he's going to chop one head every 20 customer. Do you want to go in and hope you're not going to be one of the 20 customers that gets his head chopped off, Okay, and that's what it feels to me.
Yeah, let me have a little go then. It's sort of like hypothesizing on this one. Because we are all consciousness, and because we are all creators, and because we are all subject to other consciousness and creators affecting us in a cultural way, in a educational way, in an emotional way, all these various things. For instance, okay, if I, as this particular avatar, growing up in one of the richest, spearheading and comfortable countries on the planet, if we look around, look, here's the three of us. We're discussing potentially the terrible world out there. Doesn't it seem to you guys like we are these rich folk that have gone to this business, Westworld, and we've said we want this experience where we can go and blow away a few drunks in a bar, and we can bang some of these hookers with fancy lace garters and this, that, and the other. It seems to me that that is the case with us. I've often considered, why weren't we born on the African plains, or born in a mud hut in Afghanistan, or one of these places which we deem to be so terrible, which we don't know for existent, really, that lots of these places exist, unless we've been there and experienced it. We only see it on movies and TV, and this invariably is a projection. It's faceted from the projector, from the person that wants to project to you a certain facet of it. For instance, we know that CNN have been caught for fabricating, green screening, being in a certain environment with recordings of an explosion going off here, there and everywhere. And then the guy who's been interviewed or narrating the news is an actor. And he's, pretending to be terrified with his gas mask in his hand. That one was a close. That one, this, that, and the other. It turned out they were in a freaking studio with a green screen behind. So what I'm saying is that, you see, we can see how people, when they contrive to manipulate our world, and they do it from a certain facet, we three are manipulating each other's world. We're not trying to do it in a malicious, deceptive way, but we are manipulating each other's worlds by transferring our thoughts onto one another. And so we'll all come away from this meeting, and we'll be thinking some of the things that have been said by each other. And so therefore then, we are all responsible for building each other's world. The thing is about this world, because we are all conscious, we are all creators, and we are all emotional beings, and we're also multifaceted. We've got all of these individuals grouping together in a form of chaos, which is kind of like ferrets in a sag, bulging out here and bulging out there, and you never know where, you know, there's going to be another bulge. But this is the frenzy and activity going on within inside this ferret sack, if you got, you know, a dozen ferrets in there or something like that. And so how could we ever manage to make head or tail of this if we bear that in mind?
It's so funny now. What comes to my mind, it would be really great to have Paul here, because I talked with Paul a lot about that reality distortion field. We talked about the Steve Jobs guy. He had a really strong one, and Aleister Crowley too. It's when you so believe in your own system, in your own belief system, so strongly that you what's the word? Don't acknowledge, don't agree with everything around you. You really believe your view of the world, your perception of the world is the only right one. Then you have such a strong or big reality distortion field around you that people are one or the other are rejected or drawn to it in a way. It's like with Steve Jobs, we made that example. Me and Paul, like, he was so in his own world, this guy, that he didn't want to acknowledge when people made suggestions to him with building a new Apple PC, like, yeah, maybe you build it like that, and he like, no, fuck it, we build it like this, like, I want to have it, like, I'm the genius here, you know, people like that. It's like we have all, and I said to Paul too, we all have our reality distortion fields, you could say. What is reality again? But it's our perception, what we perceive of the world. And when you are a philosopher like we are open-minded, and we don't distort our reality to that degree like most people around us do. They want to believe in something so badly that they distort their reality to such a degree that they have this cognitive dissonance all the time. When they see something that doesn't fit in their belief system, in their reality distortion field, that's like, that's why they're rejecting it. Of course, that's my theory, but I think that's why they're rejecting it so hardly, because it's not fitting in their system, let's say. It's in their software. But we are open-minded, and we say, yeah, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I don't know, really. I know that I don't know. And then you are much more, your perception awareness is much, much bigger, in my opinion, because of that. Because you don't fool yourself in a way, because you don't distort your reality to that degree like other people do. Most of the people do. They don't want to acknowledge other opinions, because they have their own made or built picture of the world, and they want to cling.
They've got their own movie going on, and they want to be a star in their own movie, and they don't want somebody else coming in and going, push over, buddy, I'm the star in this movie. And so we're all fighting for our own personal autonomy. This is why we're clasping on so vehemently for a reality which doesn't exist outside of our imagination. Now, picture this then. Getting back to the Westworld scenario, here we are, using this technology, we're 1,000 miles apart, and we have a level of intellect, and we've gathered up a level of knowledge which is due to the environment in which we are placed in. It's nothing to do with our genius. It's circumstances, isn't it? I mean, circumstances led me to look into my stuff. Circumstances led you to look into your stuff. It wasn't that all of a sudden we realized that potentially, oh, we're genius, and so now I'm going to capitalize on that. We've just fallen into it. But other people on the plains of Africa and in India and, you know, in the Middle East, they haven't had this facility. And so therefore then you look at them, and I ask the question, where do we draw the line between being a human being? We are at this level now whereby we are contemplating the nature of the universe. Along with the greatest of philosophers that have ever been on the planet, we have stood on the shoulders of them, and we're coming up with our own hypothesis. I wouldn't discount or underestimate the level that we're speaking at here now. And so because we are speaking at this level, then does that make us different, Patrick? And I'm going to throw the ball back into your court, because I want you to continue with this hypothesis that we're not all human, and some of us are husks, some of them are extras, whatever you want to call it, but there's only a few that have come to this game to have a go at cracking it.
Yeah, for sure. I tend to believe, or again, I don't want to use that word. I tend to conclude that if you are in a simulation, you need to have players, but you cannot just count on players. You know, look at an online game. The game is created. The game allows you to do tons of stuff.
You
and
can't
there is
just
one
have a movie with a star with no extras, otherwise it wouldn't be
exactly. Exactly, and it's the same with the video game. If you have one player and all the other players are sleeping, when he engages in the game and he sees, oh shit, there is nobody here, everyone is asleep, he's not going to play the game. So the game needs to have a certain amount of additional extras, features, things going on to keep the player busy. Well, that's exactly what we see in our own world, you know. Everybody is so damn busy. Everyone is struggling with time. Everyone has so many duties and stuff to do. And the funny thing is, sorry?
Except us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to, and I was going to say. And the funny thing is, these people who are actually in that script of the game of, you know, doing what is expected of them, cannot wake up, because they are the NPCs. They are the characters that are still looking like you and me, but like in Westworld, that are just operating a program, and they will be that person. You know, I was always wondering, because we've studied psychology, and I got tons of explanation on this phenomenon, you know, where you hear this woman who is being beaten up by her boyfriend, and then she finally manages to leave him, and the next thing she does is she finds a new guy that is the same profile as the guy before, and she gets beaten up again, and she tends to repeat that. And you know, psychology tries to explain us to us that it is because of traumas and all of these kind of things. Now, if you look at it from a perspective of it's an NPC just repeating a scenario over and over again, because that's what it was designed to do.
Yeah.
What you will tend to see is because I've tried to, you know, you and me, when you are in these kind of position, when you learn psychology and hypnosis, you want to help people. And what I was struggling with is some people that you want to help, it's like they want your help in some sense, and you start giving them the tools, and then suddenly it's like you don't hear of them for a while, and then you bump into them again, and you ask them, you know, did they ever do something with, you know, what you gave them as a tool to, and they look at you like they don't even remember, and they will start to go into think tanking, like they're looking for data, and then they will suddenly look at you and say, oh yes, and it's like a normal human being. When you are curious, when you get excited by something, it's something you pursue. Now, if an NPC like in Westworld is interacting with one of the gamers, like in Westworld, and the guy suddenly takes the girl to go on a horseback ride, she's going to do it, and she's going to do it to an extent where she's not crossing the boundaries that was set into her program. And initially, she will always go back to where she's supposed to go, where the scenario ends. And we're always being told, you know, that the hour of our death is already set in stone. You know, you hear all these stories from religion or from other aspects. And it's funny, because that's exactly what happens in a game. You have a scenario, and you have, now when you are a player, you enter an avatar. So the avatar already has a certain set of scenarios, which is, you know, are you going to be big and strong? Are you going to be small and obese? Are you know, a lot of the features are not created by you, because otherwise everyone would create himself as this Casanova or this beauty queen. So to some extent, we enter inside something that is already pre-scripted, but we as souls have the liberty to change the script. Now, the people who, when you are trying to start these kind of conversation with, who will immediately go into this, what's psychology calls cognitive dissonance. That's the interpretation of psychology. But I would say, if it is not part of the script of the NPC, then the NPC will either have a bug or freeze or reset. You know, that's what an NPC does. And that's exactly what these people do. They will completely either reject the whole conversation at once and, you know, turn around and just leave you in the middle of the street and run away from you. And you're like, you know, why would someone, if I bring them evidence, not even agree to look at the evidence? And you can really see, and they say, oh yeah, it's cognitive dissonance. Yeah, okay, maybe. I never had any cognitive dissonance when some new information was presented to me. I've never experienced cognitive dissonance. Now, where I want to pick your brain on, Aaron, you as a hypnotist have hypnotized many people. Have you been hypnotized yourself?
I'm not susceptible to it.
Okay, it's exactly what I want to go to. The funny thing is, we know from hypnotizing that when you hypnotize someone, what are you doing? You are reprogramming this person. Now, what is it that we program? Do you think a consciousness or a soul can be programmed?
Well,
now,
I mean,
I can tell you, science tells us that about 20% of the human population, for some reason, cannot be hypnotized. Now, the funny thing is, the ratio of NPCs and players in a video game is usually 80% NPCs for 20% players, to keep the ratio happening so that the game is engaging. Now, that's exactly what I see here. It's just a thought. I'm trying to find, you know, people who have the same experience as me. I've never been susceptible to being hypnotized myself when I know how to do it to others. And I was always thinking, okay, maybe there is something different with me, why it doesn't work with me. But then I started thinking, like, wait a minute, what are we being told? We are being told that you are going to reprogram the person. Well, I'm sorry, I know that we can program a computer. Have you ever tried to program a cat, a dog, a bird, a snake? And you cannot program them. You can train them to have certain reactions, but you cannot program them like you. I can literally hypnotize someone and program him to do something tomorrow when he'll hear Big Ben noon clocks, and he will just do exactly as I told him to do. Now, how can you explain that with consciousness? You know, can we hack consciousness? Can we?
yes.
Can we tell consciousness what to do, and consciousness suddenly doesn't have its own will anymore? Because that's exactly what happens in hypnosis.
Well, okay then. So if we look at the whole hypnosis thing, it's a yes and it's a no, and it's you just stipulated that the facet of a control which hypnosis can have over people, and this is what the powers that be have done over the whole world. They've exercised a level of hypnosis throughout everybody's lives, that they don't have any power, that they're not this sovereign being, that they're not this eternal consciousness, and that they can't do all these sort of things that, you know, we know we can if we apply our minds to. Now, the other facet of the hypnosis is that you do not, in actual fact, exercise control over somebody, but you enable them to make certain realizations about themselves. I.e., you enable them to be able to slip into their unconscious, to open up parts of their mind which have been closed down through programs, i.e. fear and any negative connotations which the ego considers to be a disadvantage to their lives. And so this is why when people get abused as youngsters, then they would have this Freudian term of repression. And so they would repress these thoughts, and when you consistently repress them, deny them, then it gets cloudy whether they actually ever existed. Because we know ourselves that we can question ourselves, well, did I actually do that? Did I actually think that? Did I actually want to do this? Did I actually, you know, we don't know for sure. whether, unless we absolutely set our intention to do something specific, then we don't know what's manipulating us. And so when you look at the whole hypnosis thing, there's varying degrees. Why is it that you're not susceptible to hypnosis and I'm not susceptible, and yet we've both become hypnotists? I think that there's either a wolf or there's a sheep, isn't there? And if we were sheep, then we would be under hypnosis, Patrick, and that's the long and the short of it. But because we're not, then we are at the other end of the scale, and we're the ones that could, if we wanted to, for nefarious reasons, we could use our level of hypnosis, say like within relationships, within a marital situation, or with your kids or with your friends, a bit like narcissists. They're always attempting to perform some sort of hypnosis on people around them because they want them to believe thoughts that are not real, but they keep reiterating it, and telling the person that they're in denial and they are in actual fact a narcissist because you're not listening to me, you're a narcissist. Nobody wants to be a narcissist, and so therefore they start listening. This is the whole situation that Guy was in, and this is why his head was so fucked. Because he's lived with this woman that's a narcissist, is telling him this for years and years. And he's not strong enough minded because he's not a wolf, and yet he's not necessarily a lamb. He can border between the two. He can be a bit wolf-like with his training of thought, but he tends to slip back into being a sheep because it's the easiest position for his personality. Because when you look at his childhood, that's where he was. Very subservient, very willing to please. And so you look across the board at individuals and you can categorize them. You can go, this one there, that one there, that one there, that one there. And basically it's all born out of our initial 5 years on this planet, the initial programming. Now, you know my history. You know why I wasn't programmed. You know Paul's history. You know why he wasn't programmed. Patrick, with your near-death experience, that's why you weren't programmed. As to why Chris hasn't been programmed, I can't exactly categorize. We've got a couple of minutes left. Maybe you can tell us, Chris.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I talked with Sarah about that on Sunday a little bit, that I always had problems with, not problems, but with authority. I never wanted that people say to me what I should do and shouldn't do. I never, it was always obvious to me that I can do whatever I want, not whatever I want, but again, I don't know, I never tried hypnosis, so I don't know if I'm susceptible to it, but that's the thing. It's funny because all you said now was so many things came to my mind that with a friend, he is a little bit narcissist where I live with. He always said that what I did with myself, I changed so much that I'm an egoist because I'm doing that. And I've said, no, that's self-confidence. That has nothing to do with egoism. And I think that's obvious for us three that for us, it's so obvious for us to see the hypnosis, what you mentioned with all the people around us. They don't see that. Even if you talk with them about that, even if you mention just fucking fluoride in the water, they don't want to see it. They don't want to. It's so obvious when you do a little bit of research. And I always had that. I always... maybe it's just to question reality. Maybe you just have to have that trait to be a little bit skeptic, not too overly skeptic, but to be a skeptic and make your own mind of reality, what you want to see in a way. I don't know. I always was like that, but after I can say after 9/11, it really changed for me because I saw that. Yeah, I felt it that something is wrong here. As I saw the towers fall, I felt it. It's not like a intellectual thing. You feel it. For me, it's like that. I feel that something. My intuition says to me, "There's something wrong here," and then I have to look at it. Most people are just fine with the official story, but I never was. I never was fine with authority. With people told me what to do or what to think. I never. I don't know where it started, but I never had that. I never wanted that people tell me what I should think or what I should do or what I should say. I never
Okay,
I don't know
so
where.
true to form then, with philosophy, we haven't concluded anything because it's not possible. And so, but what we've done is we've offered up lots of hypotheses, and we've had a great influx of energy into discussing the world about us, and the creature what we are. And it's been beneficial because I'm feeling good from it, and I'm sure you two guys are. And the only thing I can say about this philosophy thing and this thing that we're doing is that if it feels good, then continue to do it. And it always does feel good. It's you know, it's not an argument, it's not a debate, it's philosophy, and philosophy is much more beautiful. It's flowing and it's exciting, and because we're not bigoted, and we're not stubborn, we're not trying to prove a point, then we're not going to have an altercation, we're not going to have an impasse. At the end of the day, what we've done is we've just walked into a buffet and we've sampled a whole myriad of food, and now we're quite satiated. Thank you very much. And and so I think we're going to get cut off any minute now.
Yeah, we'll do a continue another day if the viewers are interested and liked our first conversation. We'll do a follow-up, right?
And even if they aren't, because frankly, I don't give a damn. It was beautiful for us, and so we'll do it regardless. And we'll put the option out there of a recorded session just in case anybody has the mind. And so on that note then, guys, it's been absolutely marvelous. Thank you both for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Been a pleasure. Really, it's awesome to talk to you always, both of you and all people I talk on the Wake and Brave side. It's always a pleasure for me to exchange these ideas, and even if it's just philosophy. And I love it. I really love it. It's always satiating for me too. Always. It's
brilliant. And so I'm going to be speaking with Sarah within the hour. And I'm not sure whether it's going to be a recorded session because she's got some sort of reservations about that. But either way, we'll have a great conversation. And so I'll be in touch with you guys as and when. And so until that time, have a great evening.
Both of you too. Great
yeah,
day.
you too. Take care, guys.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.